myself up and bring in Harms onto stream. There we go.
Right, here we go. BBO show. We're live once again.
BBO show number 7.
BBO show episode number 7. Yeah.
We
Carl,
got an
you've had
award
today.
Yeah, still no haircut, but I've shaved. I've managed that. We got an award from Twitch today for streaming like 7 days in a row or whatever it was. I don't know what the first one is.
Twitch.
I must have gone live before.
Thank you, Twitch.
Yeah. Thanks, Twitch.
No, thank you to YouTube or Facebook who've awarded us nothing after 7 episodes.
Yeah, well, we're working towards partner status. Oh, Twitch has a whole kind of rewards page. It's very gamified, which makes sense as a game platform. So there's a whole thing like for each time you hit different benchmarks, you get unlocks and like shiny things. It's very cool, the platform.
Okay.
And Facebook and YouTube could learn some things from that because the first benchmark with YouTube is 1,000 subscribers and
an X amount of views.
Yeah, X amount of hours, I think.
Hours watched. There's hours watched and 1,000 subscribers, and then you can access their partner program, which pays you, right?
It opens up monetization options, and gives you some more analytics. But it's a much higher thing. Whereas Twitch, like as soon as you sign up, it's like, well done. You get something, or the first time you go live, it's like, good job, which is great. I think that's wonderful.
That is wonderful, because going live is a challenge in itself. You know, encouraging yourself to go live and put yourself in front of camera.
Just before we get, and the technical details again, like just before we came on, I was saying to Harms, every time we log into the software we use, there's always something different. Like one of us will be muted, or you can't hear, or the audio is coming out the wrong place. And every time it's different. Every time there is some technical issue, and it's not the same thing. Exactly. And it always happens just before we go live as well. It's like,
it's not working. And that's just one of those technical challenges. But I think with live, you just stay cool, stay calm. You know, the audience will appreciate the fact that we are going live. This is not, and it's just myself and yourself. We've got a team who helps us in the background, but for this, it's just me and Kyle. Whereas a live broadcast elsewhere, there's a team of people, there's a big camera crew, there's a high production. Whereas the world of YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, etc., it's completely changed. I'm going to start including Twitch in these conversations because they gave us an award. So now, there we go. There we go.
Speaking of big live productions, things like sports are no longer happening in the real world, and a lot of the sports is moving to Twitch. So they're doing official, semi-official sporting events on Twitch, like the Canadian Ice Hockey League. They can't play ice hockey anymore. They're now doing the rest of the league officially via a video game. I don't know which one it is, but the teams are actually sit down and playing the game to work out who wins the league.
Nice! So they're e-gaming. It's esports.
Because a lot of football teams and race car drives and stuff are doing it kind of for charity, for fun. But the Canadian Ice Hockey League is like, sod it, let's make this what determines the actual league, because we're not going to have a league this year.
Yeah.
Which is nuts to see that line between esports and sports just demolished overnight.
And it is fantastic. I was chatting to a couple of gamers just prior to this, encouraging them to stream live. What they've been doing previously is we call them gamers, but
the way you say it sounds like they're gamers with a Z, like the gamer boys.
Because that's the era I grew up in. But now they're actually esports professionals and gaming professionals. So, and it was a case of really getting them to stop uploading the videos, but instead just stream their content. Because these guys are really good gamers. Anyway.
Let's
today's show, because you haven't joined us to hear about esports, although it is another way to generate online income. Maybe we can explore that in the future when we go into a research phase.
Yeah, it is.
But today we're carrying on the conversation on how we can make money online during lockdown. And we are very much leveraging this big list of items, which is around 200 different ways which you can generate cash online. And as we go through the week, we're upping the skill level. So yesterday we spoke about how can you enter and make cash online, which requires very little skill, maybe time and effort, yes, but very little skill. Now, to fast forward it, there you'll see it on the screen below. That's the big list. To access that, it's completely available for you guys for free. Just check in the description below and the link is there. It's a Google Drive sheet. So yeah, it's completely accessed for you guys.
We don't need your email. We don't need you to log in or anything like that. No shenanigans. It's just a Google sheet.
Yeah, it's just for you to enjoy. And then use the episode to help you discover things on the list, because you may think, oh my God, this list is amazing, but where do I start? Well, I'd say start with the show yesterday, and that will give you some general places. And again, the idea of this week is to bring awareness, not to say you must do everything or any of it, but it's just to bring awareness to what is actually available online, the ways you can make cash online, because COVID-19 is here, coronavirus, or whatever situation you are in, everybody's in a slightly unique situation, whether it's a loss of income, whether it's actually not loss of income, but I've got a lot more time, or I now appreciate the need to have another supplementary income coming in, then all of these ideas will definitely tick that box. So that's where we're focusing today.
There's another exciting thing. I've been talking to some friends about this.
Yeah.
They have jobs, 9-to-5 jobs, and now they're at home and they're starting to work from home, and they're starting to realize how much they hated the commute and going into the job. And so they are now thinking about, okay, well, when this is over, what kind of changes do I want to make to my life? And I don't know what their changes are going to be, but for some people it will be moving online a bit more. It's going to be a different world when we come out of this, and it's up to you to decide how you shape that world. And I think any work you do now, while we're in the midst of what's going on, is going to be really helpful.
Yeah, and I would say a bit of advice for an employee is, if you are working from home, make it as so that the result and the productivity does not dip. If you can get it so that the productivity increases, now you've got a case study and something you can take to your boss or your managers or whatever and say, actually, I'm way better when I work from home. Here's proof. Amongst survivors, here's some proof. And then it's very hard for them to argue. Otherwise, you can fall straight back into the next trap of these face-to-face meetings, etc. So yesterday was very much how do you make money online without very, very little skill, but you may need time and energy involved. And actually
what's open to everybody. That's what we started with. Open to everybody. Everyone can do them. No excuses.
That makes sense. So that's yesterday. Today, we're focusing on, I'm going to point to you what we're focusing on today.
Sure. So we are focusing on the fact that you do have skills. When we talk to people, sometimes they're like, I don't really have any skills, or I'm just out of university, or I've never, we tend to think of our skills as our diplomas and our degrees and stuff like that. And that's not really what we're talking about. You do have a skill. The fact that you are watching us, you're listening to us, means that you speak English. Whether it's your native language or a second language that you've learned later, in which case, much respect, good job. It's a big skill. It's a skill that you can use in many different ways, and we're going to be covering that today. All the different ways where the English language can be used online to generate an income. Again, doesn't matter if you're a native speaker or you've learnt it as a second language. There's going to be different opportunities available, but it's going to be open for you.
Yeah, and what I'd say is, if you're watching this and you are English is your second language, and you're thinking, I'm not that fluent, or it's not that great. Well, actually have a look at the ideas today, because not all of them will be applicable, but some may be. But either way, if you look at yesterday, we were only picking a few items, and we ended up with, my notepad's a complete mess now, but we end up with certainly over $500 a month. I can't remember the number.
Yeah, we pieced together one from each category, and it ended up at about $500.
Okay, now I'm gonna 320. So that was in my. I got it. I found it on the notepad yesterday. Complete mess. So $320. So the idea is just pick one or two of these items, and you get paid something. But the good thing about today is because there's a level of skill set required, which is the English language. The income that you're going to generate also increases. So yesterday we had an example of a survey paying you maybe 50 cents. Now it's going to change slightly. Some of those still apply, but the level required, we're talking in the $10, $15, $20 plus, that sort of arena. So that's us. So what I'd say, Carl, is we've got a lot to cover with you today. Again, this complements the list. And if you're unsure about anything we're going to speak about today, then join us in the Slack group. Those comments are below as well. And if you want to join us tomorrow, then all you need to do is subscribe so you don't miss this and you don't lose us in the world wide web of YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or wherever you're watching us. So those are two important things. Now let's dive into it because we have got a lot to cover. So Carl, if you kick us off with the first one, because today's episode 7, so we've actually got 7 different ways, 7 different methods. I don't think that was planned. I think that was just...
No, it wasn't planned.
It wasn't planned. So episode 7 and 7 different ways. It just happened to...
You should be careful saying things like that, though, because that's the kind of thing that you might write in the script or the notes, and then I'll add another one quickly.
True.
We could do this, or we could do this. This is going to be a big list, so we are going to go through it quickly.
I've just checked my notes. Carlos had not added anything else. There's no number 8.
Yeah, there's 7.
So lucky number 7 today. So Carl, you kick off with number 1, and we'll just discuss in each topic. Just think about today as we'll frame it, just expand on what it is, in case you're not aware of that period, and then we'll talk about some examples just like we did yesterday.
Yep. Okay. So number 1, we're going to kick off with teaching. You speak English and you have the ability, everyone has the innate ability to teach other people. Teaching English is a massive market. There's 1 billion people around the world actively learning English right now. I can't think of any other market that's much bigger than that. I mean, that is obscenely large for a single business. The English as a second language market. And really surprisingly, there are 300 million active learners of English in China.
That gets me every time. That's amazing.
For scale, yeah. America, the whole population of America is 330 million, thereabout. So there's almost a whole population of America in China right now actively learning English. So in terms of market size, this is just mind-blowing. And a lot of the infrastructure for learning English in China and around the world has been shut down because the classes are not there, so you can't go to the class. So a lot of this is moving online. So we want to talk about how you can use your ability as a native speaker to help people who are learning English around the world. Not just for native speakers, but we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah. So do we need, and look, I ask these questions, if you're listening at home, this is me and Carl having a conversation, but in the research of this, we pull out some nuggets for you guys and hopefully answer these questions on your behalf, which is question number 1 really is, do you need a degree? Do you need some sort of qualification for this? And I think the answer is twofold, but what would you say?
Sure. So most of these websites are set up, and most language education is set up like this as well, where there's 2 tiers. There are going to be the professional teachers. So these are people who can actually put together lesson plans. They can work with an individual or a group of students to kind of guide them through a curriculum. These job offerings or these gigs will tend to require you to have at least a bachelor's degree. It doesn't really matter what and some form of diploma or certificate. So there's TESOL, there's TEFL, there's CELTA. These are basically diplomas that teach you how to teach English to students. So for professional teachers, a lot of the hiring positions or a lot of the gigs will be for that level. So you would need some kind of qualification. However, that's not everything.
That's not everything. So that's tier 1. Before we go to tier 2, how much does a qualification cost
Sure.
on average that we found?
Sure. So you can get one of these qualifications. There's a huge range. There are ones you can get online in a couple of weeks, and then there are ones where you actually go and you do a 6-month course in a university and they teach you how to run a classroom, etc., etc. CELTA, the Cambridge English Language Teaching Authority, I don't know what it is. CELTA, that is generally considered like the top, and you actually go and receive education in a classroom. That might cost a few thousand to get done. However, there are TEFL and TESOL qualifications which you can now do online. They tend to be 200 or 300 hours worth of teaching. A lot of it will be you watching videos and doing exercises, and then with some live elements.
Yeah,
they cost a couple of £100 basically.
So something from 200, 300 quid. And the courses are typically, based on the research, about 200 to 300 hours for that kind of price range.
There's a massive range. But I would say if you, depending on where you are in life, if you just want to get this diploma to teach English now to make money during the lockdown, that's quite a big commitment, because it's going to take you a few hundred hours to get that diploma.
Yeah.
Whether or not you want to make that commitment is up to you. However, if you
Which leads us
see
nicely
yourself
into
traveling,
tier 2.
Well, very quickly before we go
Okay.
to that, if you are going to be traveling around the world, having a TEFL or a TESOL is really useful for being able to pick up jobs. If you are backpacking or you're traveling, it's just a very useful qualification to have. And right now is a really good time to pick one up because you've got time to study, or you may have time to study.
Yeah.
So if you do want to go down that route, fantastic. If you already have teaching qualification, you probably already know this stuff already, and you're probably already teaching online. If you're not, I would definitely look into it, and we're going to look at some websites shortly. But now let's move on to everybody else. So the people who aren't professional teachers, but you do speak English, and you can help other people to learn English.
So that's tier 2. Essentially, we've given it a name, tiers, but let's just say that the top tier is professional, where you've got a qualification, and when you deliver that service, you're going to get paid accordingly. And these range, but we'll give you some examples in a bit. So professional will get paid because they've got that level of qualification. Now, if you don't want to commit, because Carl, you're right, committing that much time to a qualification when really all we need is to get a bit of cash in the bank for now and just experiment with this. Yes, you may want to grow it as a career or business later, that's fine. But right now we just want cash in the bank. So let's look at the people who don't necessarily need a qualification. There's probably a vetting process to go through anyway, but you're not paying for a qualification in order to get a job. The result is going to be you're going to get paid less, but the friction to entry is just completely removed. So you're just going to start teaching as quickly as possible and start generating cash as quickly as possible. And that is also available as a way to, generate an income online through these platforms. So let's talk about the platforms that are available. Maybe some for professionals, some for somebody if they just want to get started.
Sure. So most platforms out there have both of these levels. These tier 2, the second level, we're going to call it conversation partners, because it's a more casual form of teaching. It's basically jumping on a live call with somebody in China or somebody in Uruguay or somebody in wherever and having conversations with them. They as a student will have had English lessons before. So they might speak a bit of conversational English, but they need to practice. They need somebody to talk to, somebody to have chats with, basically, and they are paying to have access to that. So that's what you can do as a native or a fluent speaker of English, is help them with conversation practice.
Yeah, and it may look like this. So the way me and Carla got our video set up, it may look like this. You can see somebody, it may just be audio, but you can physically see them and you're having a conversation around an agreed structure, or maybe the website has an agreed structure, or what's the learning outcome, the learning goals for today's class or conversation. So I like that. Conversational partners.
So let's jump into a couple of the platforms, because then we can talk about the difference between teachers and conversation partners.
Okay.
So probably the biggest one out there right now is something called italki. So it's italki. So on italki, you put up a profile and you're kind of responsible for getting your own students. So you write your blurb, you say what you offer, you set your prices, it's all on you. All italki does is kind of provide a marketplace, a platform for you to help you find students. They're the largest. They have the most students, as far as I can tell. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Professional teachers on there, if you are a native speaker, the hourly rate is about $20 to $40 an hour or more. I've seen some that were $50, like older teachers who have obviously taught for years, and they're picking up these extra classes on the side.
Yeah, and they also, I would also then say, they have a brand, or they've got a profile which is established on this platform, which is where they can demand the highest.
Lots of stars, they probably have prepared their own learning material as well. So when you're paying $40 or $50 an hour to work with this teacher, you kind of know you know what you're getting. So if you are starting out as a teacher, it's going to be hard to get that kind of rate off the bat. But that's something you could build up to over time.
Absolutely.
So that's for if you are a native speaker and a qualified teacher. If you are not a native speaker, So let's say your first language is Russian, but you are a professional teacher and you are fluent in English, etc. Generally, it would be a bit less. It would be 20 to 30 an hour. That's just because there is a preference to hire native speakers on the site.
20 to 30. And then, do they also have the conversational side of things as part of their platform? And they probably get paid less.
You broke up there for a bit. They do. They do. So on italki, they are called community teachers, but it's kind of the same as a conversation partner. So again, these are the people who don't have a qualification, but they speak English fluently or native, and they go on and they have chats with people. They tend to be about $10, $15 an hour. I saw some at 20. Don't know if they're picking up any work. But so we're talking roughly minimum wage at that point. But still, you're sitting at home, basically having a chat with somebody across the world and getting paid for it, which is it's kind of cool.
That's phenomenal, especially if you, and it could be that you are a teacher. It could be that you're a teacher and you're not required at the moment because schools are on lockdown. So how can you leverage your skill set very quickly, because you already have some of these qualifications that we're speaking about, or some that are transferable, in which case this is another way to top up, because you could be a teacher at home earning a salary. You're just not required to work at the moment. So this is another way to almost double your salary potentially within that month, or within the 4 weeks or 6 weeks, or however long we are in lockdown. So that's great. Just so we're not biased, Kyle, you've got another note, which is Verbal Planet. Verbal Planet.
So italki is the big one right now. I've personally used italki for when I'm learning languages, and I like italki. It's good. It's a good platform. There's also Verbal Planet and Verbling. I have not used them. They seem to be very similar to italki. So check them out. If you are a teacher, I don't see why you wouldn't put your profile on multiple sites. You'd have to make sure you don't get double booked, but that's relatively simple to do.
So if you're starting, I would say if you're starting off, just get your profile on all of them, depending on, try them. I'm sure there's this free trial period or however they got them set up. But just,
so you never pay anything. As a teacher, the way these are structured is if I charge $30 an hour, italki will take a small percentage, but it is actually quite small in this. It's not, they don't take like 30% or anything. I think it's 5 maybe.
Well, I think that's okay when you've got a 300 million market size. I think a tiny percentage is.
I'd need to check this actually. Maybe they add it on. Maybe there's a service fee that goes to the student. I'd have to check. But it'll be very transparent. It'll be transparent on their site. The key is just go check that out. You got another one which looks quite cool, which is VIP Kids, and it's a Chinese-based startup. And remember, for this one, it's 300 million students, or 300 million people who want to learn the language of English as a marketplace. It's phenomenal. So just expand on VIP Kids. Yeah, I've added it here as its own section because it is such a monster. So VIP Kids is a Beijing-based startup. I think last year they won Forbes prize for the best work from home company. Don't know what that means. Not sure if that's if that was worth anything, but they're apparently good to work for.
It'd be worth something now. It'd be worth something now in this current climate.
Sure they're doing quite well. So this is a company that's exclusively focuses on that 300 million Chinese people who are learning English. So it's a big enough market for them. They have a different model. Their classes are 25 minutes long, so they're half an hour. You get paid between 7 and 9, so let's say about $8 per hour per half an hour class, so 25-minute class.
Every half an hour you get paid $7 to $9. Yep.
Sorry, that shouldn't be complicated. So for an hour's work, you get paid, let's say $14 to $18, which is fine by itself. If you do 45 classes, and you are on time to every class, you don't get flagged up as being unpunctual. And if you do 45, it doesn't have to be like 45 days in a row or anything. It's just a sequence of 45. Yep. Then you get a $2 bonus per class, which suddenly means you're getting paid $10 per half an hour class, which means $20 per hour, basically. So that requires you to be consistent and to do 45 classes and to be punctual to them all. But if you do that, then you're being paid $20 an hour
So
on
so
average, which is
40 so
solid.
to get 45 classes consecutively on time, you're really just looking at 3 days. So 3 days of punctuality and turning up to your classes on time to deliver those, and you get a $2 bonus per class. That's pretty good going.
Yeah, it's a very interesting model, and I think the reason they do it is to make sure they don't get lots of kind of feckless teachers who turn up, do 1 or 2 lessons and get bored. So instead they're like, no, if you commit for 45 and if you turn up on time, we're going to give you a retroactive $2 bonus on every single one of those classes, which is, I mean, that's solid. Yeah,
that's solid. $2 bonus is a lot. As a percentage of what you're already earning is very high. Yeah. So
and that means it's about $20 an hour. So
yeah,
what's that? I don't even know the exchange rates now. 16, 17 pounds an hour, which is good.
Yeah, very good. So we've got some calculations here. So 45 lessons at $8 a lesson is $360. So if you plus the bonus to that, that brings that up to 400, and you can do the calculations as well, $450. Now for 22.5 hours worth of work, which is just over half a week's work, you're looking at $20 per hour on average. So that starts to add up. That's a lot, 22. So for 22 hours, half a week's work, just over half a week, you're making about $450. So that's pretty much in line with a typical salary in the UK. If you're watching this in the UK, that is a typical salary, probably slightly lower in the US, but of course it depends on where you're from and what you class as a typical salary.
I mean, it's certainly more than nothing, which is what a lot of people are getting while they're stuck at home. So yeah, I think it's worthwhile. A fair warning, some people have complained about the company. I just found, because I was doing research to see which ones are worth looking at, but it was more this kind of thing. It was about that, you need to do 45 lessons before you get your bonus and stuff like that. But I think from a business point of view, that's a good idea to make sure your teachers are consistent and that your students are getting the best experience.
Yeah.
They also had weird things previously, like you used to have to wear an orange T-shirt to represent their brand and stuff like that. They've got rid of all of that nonsense now.
Well,
again, I see where they're coming from, but it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
So with something like this, you get lots of work, but you are working for a boss, basically. VIP Kids is your boss, whereas with italki, Verbling, etc., you're working more for yourself. So it's up to you to brand yourself. It's up to you to get the students, and yes, you might be able to charge more, but you need to go through the marketing process. So which one's good for you is, it's going to depend on you personally.
Yeah, very much so. Just depends on what your nature is. If you enjoy building the brand, collecting reviews, whereas the other one they both will have their pros and cons. But I like it because it's also incentivizing good behavior. So they've clearly identified what is one of the biggest problems with these other platforms, or what is a big gripe that students have, because ultimately the student is their core customer. They're the ones who are wanting the service. The teachers are helping facilitate that. So poor punctuality is probably one of the biggest things they found, which they try to overcome. So yeah, I like that. It makes sense. So that section, or that method, is literally what it says on the tin, is teaching online, and you can use any of these methods. Now these methods, if you're thinking, what's the website link, etc., it's all on the big list, and the big list is in the description below. And if you want to know those nuances that Carl has gone into depth and researched, and just have that conversation with us on Slack, that's where to chat to us about that. Okay, so number 2 is...
You kind of alluded to this just now. Number 2 is tutoring. So similar to teaching English, but slightly different. We're going to be tutoring around school subjects or academic subjects or whatever it is. You just talked about teachers who are at home now. And so I know a few primary school teachers. One of them, he's teaching online, his kids, but the majority of the work he's doing is putting together worksheets. So suddenly he's gone from a full 8-hour day or whatever it is to a couple of hours, basically. So I'm going to tell him after this, it's like, you need to get on these platforms.
Definitely.
So this is, yes, you need the English language to tutor, but also requires knowledge of a subject. So this isn't pure English language, but I wanted to put it here because it's so similar to teaching English, that you you go on a platform, you set up a profile, and then you teach via a camera like this.
Yeah, and it could be within a specific subject. So it could be you're delivering maths, science, chemistry, biology, English literature, English language. But because you have the native English language as your base, you can start to teach in any of these subjects. Now, one of the challenges a listener may throw at us is saying, well, actually, all of the exams are cancelled. There's no real need for tutoring. But that would be, if we analyze that market, the exam side of, or exam preparation side of tutoring would probably take up a percentage. I don't know what the answer there is. Maybe somebody listening can let me know. But that won't be 100% of the market. There'll be, and I know parents who have their kids getting tutored on piano right now, on other kind of niche topics, just because their children are passionate about that subject and they want to continue to develop their learning. So they get additional classes there. So think about tutoring as an additional class to complement the number one, which is the language and the teaching and the fundamental education part of things. So any websites we have here where people can do this online, because I used to go to a tutor when I was terrible at maths, so maths tutoring, but I'd go drive to the person's house, sit there for 45 minutes, wish I was never there, and then go back home. But that's not possible right now. So how are they facilitating that online?
Wait, were you a kid?
I was a child then. I was a child then. Never. It was not recently. I was being driven.
I just imagine you getting in the car to go and do your GCSE maths.
I love maths so much. Yeah.
I'm going to get my GCSE. So there's a few websites out there.
I hated maths. Yeah.
One of the big ones right now is Chegg, Chegg. I think it's the one that was set up by Ashton Kutcher. He set up Chegg. So Chegg Tutors is a giant marketplace for tutoring. In the UK, in particular, there is SuperProf and UK Tutors. Very exciting name. So you can go on there.
UK names.
Yeah, UK Tutors. You can look up all the different things. So depending on what your skill set is, as Harms just said, yes, maybe you don't know how to teach GCSE biology, but you might be able to teach piano or something like that. There's going to be a lot of opportunities right now because, true, people aren't doing exams, at least in the UK, so there's not going to be exam tuition, but all the kids are at home and they're being provided with some education by their schools, but it's not going to be enough for a lot of parents out there and a lot of kids. So there's going to be extra sessions that on the marketplace that I'm sure you can pick up.
Yeah, there's only so many cartoons your kids can watch. So I think, have a look at that.
That's the other thing. Yeah, if you could send your kid to go and do maths tuition for an hour or so, that means an hour off for the parent.
Yeah.
So think of it that way rather than, oh, well, they're not doing exams, so they're not going to be bothering. The fact that they're at home and they need entertainment and education at home, I think that's going to outweigh the fact that exams have been cancelled this year.
Yeah, agree. And think about that in the way you deliver as well, because you're going to be teaching either children, teenagers, so they may also be advised by their parents to say, look, we found this tutor online, they're cracking. So try to deliver in a way that you start to build your own reputation as an online tutor, because once this is over, they actually may prefer to stay with you rather than go and visit their physical tutor, because it's easy. You just pop them in the office or pop them in front of the laptop. They'll learn, take notes. You may be able to tutor more than, say the family's got 3 children and they're all teens, and you may be able to provide that tutoring to them, especially if it's in a subject like piano. If it's not exam related, then suddenly it becomes open doors. So try to think bigger and outside the box with these things. So tutoring is a nice simple one, and it complements the teaching and language teaching, certainly. So now we're getting on to the unknowns. So the things that you may not think are ways, or you may not have been aware of them, and these are quite creative as well. Again, they're all in the big list, and that link is below. So number 3 is, I'll give the title and then you can explain it, which is voice work. And the reason I say Carl can explain this is because if you was to vote, and I'm sure, if you can tell us in Slack, who do you think, once Carl is finished with his description, has the better voice for voice work? Is it myself or is it Kyle?
You don't think it's me, do you? I've got a lisp.
It's definitely Kyle.
I've got sibilants though. Okay, anyway.
It's definitely Kyle. He's got that English, he'll explain it. He's got that British, nice sounding British
That's from my university. I didn't have it before, and after a few beers, I go back to South London as well. The
South
SAF.
London. I'm West
My
London,
T's
so
drop.
yeah.
Um, so if you've got a good voice, there are opportunities out there. Again, as an English speaker, as a British speaker, as Harms is just alluding to, there are even more opportunities because, well, we'll talk about the particular subsets, but let's say for audiobooks, for example, a lot of people like to have British voices on them instead of American or, well, yeah, non-British voices. So there are, obviously we're not only talking to people in Britain, but if you do have a good voice and you have a good accent, there's going to be some work that you can do in voice work.
A voice for radio. That was the catchphrase. You have a voice for radio.
It was. No, it's
what is it? Is it?
Isn't it an insult? No, it's
No, you got a voice. You got a voice for radio.
You have the looks for radio.
That's an insult.
That's the insult.
That's the insult. Dom. Hey, Dom. Okay, Dom's watching us live. He's amazing. By the way, Dom, I haven't caught up with him. I've just seen a comment pop up. Dom has been traveling the world, and his cruise holiday was hijacked by coronavirus, naturally. So it's been extended. Carl, you know Dom as well, and he's just been cruising the world. I haven't messaged him. I just wanted to allow him to go through that experience, but I'm certainly going to catch up with him. Since he's been cruising, Dom, I've moved down south. And he said, just a heads up, the bit.ly link for Slack group doesn't work.
Oh, good job, us. Good job, digital marketers.
Good job, me and Kyle, telling you every 5 minutes, join the Slack group, and the link doesn't work. Thank God we got Dom.
Yeah, the cruise industry, that's going to be an interesting one.
How do you do cruises online? It's got to be VR.
Anyway, we're talking about voice work. So a bunch of different options here. There's going to be casual all the way through to professional. If you're already a professional voice worker, you're probably doing fine because you'll have a studio. We're talking more about people who want to get into doing voice work from home. So casual stuff, we will talk about Fiverr and Upwork in a lot more detail later today and going forward. But you can actually pick up basic voice work gigs, narrations, voiceovers over on Fiverr and on Upwork. These are good casual places to start building up your portfolio, because if you apply to an actual voice work agency, they are going to obviously ask, like, okay, what have you done? Can you send us audio examples of your previous voice work?
Send me your portfolio of voice work. Yeah, send me your portfolio.
I mean, it's a professional industry, and there will be voice portfolios. I guess it would have been tapes back in the day, but now it will be files on a website. But if you want to start out, then Fiverr and Upwork are great places to pick up this kind of thing. And the range of gigs you can get are truly bizarre. It might be you promoting a new, I don't know, coffee thermos flask or something, but in your nice British accent. Whatever it is, you can just go and have a look. If you are looking for voiceover specific jobs, so these are larger projects rather than simple 30-second messages or whatever, you can go to voices.com and the Voice Realm. These are websites where you can find bigger gigs. At this point, you're going to start to need to have a portfolio, which is why I say start with Upwork, start with Fiverr, get some basics done, then progress. And then if you look at something really big, you can actually do audiobook narration.
Fantastic.
And there's a website, or there's an agency called ACX, which is probably the best place to start with that. And at that point, we're talking about being paid thousands. But you are sitting down and talking for 18 hours, reading a book. So that's obviously requires a lot of skill. And you're only going to be paid for that if you've proven you can do this kind of work with smaller projects.
Yeah, fantastic. And what I just wanted to add a note on Fiverr and Upwork. We will briefly talk about Fiverr and Upwork this today, because otherwise we'll be talking for hours and hours. But what we'll do is we'll do Fiverr and Upwork in its own week, because they are its own business in its own right, in the sense that you can generate
multiple businesses,
and you can generate a solid income from working at home using your skill set. So it's the higher skilled item, but I think we will be talking about that on number 7. So point number 7, we're going to be talking about specifically a category where you can leverage your English native language by using Fiverr or Upwork. So we're not going to dive into the platforms. Just be aware that there's platforms that exist, and Fiverr and Upwork are one of those. But they are a business in its own right. So there's you put an extra note here.
I'll do it really quickly. If people tell you that you have an extremely relaxing voice and they like to listen to your voice for whatever reason, look into something ASMR. I don't automatic. What does it stand for?
You explain it, and I'll bring up what does.
Okay, autonomous sensory meridian response. Whatever. It's basically talking in very soft voice while doing certain actions on video, maybe it's crinkling paper or popping bubble wrap. There was one example I was just looking at, which is 17 minutes of someone from Finland doing tongue twisters, but in a very nice, relaxing voice. She's got about 2.3 million views on that. I did some mathematics on that. She's probably been paid $4,000 for basically doing tongue twisters for 17 minutes.
So
she's
ASMR,
not even big.
Yeah, she's not even big. That's a small account for this kind of subject niche area. So, and I'm curious. If you're wondering what this is at home, a feeling of well-being combined with a tingling sensation in the scalp and down the back of the neck, as experienced by somebody or some people in response to a specific gentle stimulus, often a particular sound. So it's actually triggered. ASMR is triggered by things like whispering voices, paper tearing, and scalp massage. Scalp massage, 100%. I didn't know that was a thing. For myself anyway. Let's just see. Is this working for you guys?
Oh god, no.
Oh god, that's horrible.
You do need to have a certain sound setup so you don't get that kind of harsh noise. But the main thing is, if you have a very soothing, relaxing voice, I would look into ASMR as a serious possibility. I know some people will be listening to this right now thinking, what on earth are they talking about?
I thought that first.
This is big business if you can get into it on Twitch and YouTube. People use these videos to relax, whether it's listening to the sound of rain and somebody reading a fairy tale in a soft voice, whether it is someone popping bubble wrap and just telling you about their day, whatever it is. There are relaxing videos that are now just extremely popular on platforms like Twitch and YouTube, and that allows you to monetize again your voice if it is of that certain timbre, of that certain tone, where you help people to relax. So I know it sounds weird, but definitely check it out.
Agree. So
you'll see it's big. It's really big.
It's really big. And just before we move on to the next one, think of it as something similar to, but just in a different format and medium, to those very popular playlists on YouTube right now, which is like lo-fi beats, and there's a few other ones where there's that artist picture and a girl's just doing her homework and there's a cat in the background and she's just like never finishing her homework for an hour and a half. But it's very similar to that. It will produce that same kind. It is a similar business to that, but it's not music. It's focused on voice work. So if you want to associate it with something and know that it is real, check it out, because you could be sitting on a hidden talent there, which can make you $4,000 or pounds a month. So the next one is also leveraging your voice. Sorry, no, this is now, we're moving away from voice. We're now leveraging the fact that you can understand English and be able to produce a piece of work, which is specifically called audio transcription from what you're hearing. So what we're doing is we're listening to something and we're going to turn that audio into text. And it's very, very it's a needed product and a needed service for businesses. It's a needed item for small businesses. And that's it in a nutshell. So Carl, do you want to expand on that? Where I mean, I can tell people where we used it in a moment. If you want to expand on that, it's really as simple as that, audio to text.
So right now, AI or computers are not 100% accurate at transcribing audio. So if I am a business and I want to transcribe meeting notes, maybe the minutes of a meeting, I can record the whole meeting and have a person turn that into a transcription, for example. You wouldn't get rid of the minutes, but you would use that to have a written record of a meeting. That's one way you could use it. Something like this, when we're teaching, we will get this transcribed afterwards and turn it into a blog article. That's another use that you might want to go into a bit more on. There are unlimited business users for this, and it's a big business right now. that there are sites like Transcribe Anywhere, Transcribe Me, QuickStateRev.com. That's one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Tigerfish, CrowdSurf, TakeNote, SpeechPad, Way with Words, where they will pay human beings like yourself to listen to audio and type out what you hear. And then that text is sent back to the business who has hired these agencies for the work.
Yeah. So in terms of how much do they pay people? Because there's a few different tiers. Basically, the low tier and the high tier. So it does vary slightly, but it's all based on quality.
The main thing is you get paid for how many minutes of audio you transcribe. Yeah. So let's say you're given a 5-minute audio clip, you'll get paid for transcribing 5 minutes of audio. If that takes you an hour, then you're not going to be making much money. If you can transcribe it 1-to-1, so it takes you 5 minutes to transcribe 5 minutes of audio, then you can do very well from this.
So the key here is speed.
Yep, you need to be able to listen and type. If you can type at real time at the same speed that somebody is speaking, you can be quids in here. You can make a lot of money. But that's obviously a very that's a skill that not that many people have.
Correct. So if you do have that natural, you can listen, or say you've got a job and it's typically been taking meeting notes, logging down stuff. So I'm thinking super PAs, personal assistants, super VAs, anybody who's the note taker, secretaries, admin staff. You can potentially go and get a supplementary income just off a natural skill that you already have, which is the ability to type on a ratio of 1-to-1. You can hear it and you can type without the need to pause. If you can get that skill set, you can start to generate revenue. And the money,
good money. Yeah,
really good money. So so typically the prices that you can earn are between so what 30 cents to 60 cents per minute audio. That's a normal.
That's per minute audio, not your time working. So if you have a 10-minute piece of audio and you can get that done and transcribed in 10 minutes, then you are also making 30 cents to 60 cents per minute.
Yeah. So let's say you did 30 minutes. Well, let's say you did half a working day. So let's say 4 to 5 hours. Let's say you did 5 hours of this and we hit the top mark.
50 cents a minute.
50 cents.
Top mark. Let's say 50 cents a minute. So this is the problem with transcription, is it's quite hard to work out how much you're going to be making until you actually start doing it.
Well, actually, that's not bad. It's about $150 for about 5 hours of work. If you're working on that rate. So let's just say 50 cents for 5 hours work. That's 60 minutes in each hour, and that will give you about $150, which is not bad. I mean, that's a good day's work.
$30 an hour, isn't it?
Yes, $30 an hour divided by 5. Yeah, $30 an hour.
I mean, there are different tiers as well. So if you're doing scientific or legal transcription, it's obviously going to be paid even more. The highest I found was $1.73 per minute of audio.
That is high.
Yeah, so you transcribe an hour's worth of audio. That's going to be $103. So if you can do that 1-to-1, you're making $100 an hour. Obviously,
I'm going to have to look at that just for an hour a day, because I have a natural skill where I can type ferociously fast. So
yeah, you'd only be making that kind of money if it was legal or technical or engineer. Oh, you could do engineering.
Engineering. Yeah. I've got an engineering degree, which I don't use, but yeah.
It's a technical language you get paid higher for. So if you combine that with the ability to listen and type fast, you can do pretty well.
Yeah, okay, I like that. So that's great. So if you just ask, say, like Harms and Carl, how do you use this in your agency? Because you put out content, we do videos. We've also got other clients. I do another podcast with another fantastic gentleman as well. So we do content. We put content out there. So the way we use this in regards to digital marketing, so just talking about online business, just off a tangent slightly, is we will take the audio file and we will put the audio file. Just think of this as a 3-step process. Step 1 is we'll take the audio, we'll record the audio or the video. We'll then extract that audio file and put it into an AI software. The software we use is called Drag and Dictate, but there's lots out there. There's even some ones that are free for a period of time, and then they'll start charging you after that, but it's quite reasonable. Now, once it's processed in the AI software, it will just give you a full transcript. Now, that is not perfect. I would say Dragon Dictate is probably about 90 to 95%. It's very, very good. But it then goes to the final step, which is another human being who will clean that up. So what we do is in the middle step is rather than go to an audio transcriber, because for us it works out expensive because we do so much. And we skip a human and we actually go to an AI and then send it to a human at the end, which works out cheaper for us. So if you're looking at this in terms of, actually, I produce a lot of content. Do I need to use these people? Or do I use an AI software? There's two different options there. But either one will have a cost associated to it unless you do the whole thing yourself. But that's not very... that's not smart use of your time as a business owner, especially right now. So just wanted to apply that to businesses as well. So podcast, say you don't do videos, you just do audio, you can turn that podcast. Now, what do we do with that transcription? We will then turn that into a guide, a blog, a book in the far future. There's many different things you can do with it, depending on what your niche and your industry is. So hopefully that helps, a little snapshot on how we use transcription.
Yeah, we're going to probably be talking about that for a whole week.
That's going to be a week. Yeah, we'll go into detail.
A lot of content very quickly, but what we're talking about today is you going to somewhere like rev.com, signing up to be a transcriptionist and transcriber, in order to generate this, whatever it is, 50 cents per minute of audio transcription. So it's another way to add income. But we will talk about how we use transcription at a later date, because it is fascinating.
It is fascinating, and it's very, very powerful. But I want to throw in there, because there'll be business owners listening to this and thinking, where do I fit into this process? I don't necessarily want to be the transcriber, but how do I benefit from this transcription? Because I know business owners who weren't even aware of companies like TranscribeMe, Rev, Tigerfish, and the power of doing that. So anyway, that's audio transcription. That's another way to get paid. But remember, this is not now speaking language. This is listening and processing by typing incredibly fast. Number 5 is a very short one. You can
very short. Well, in general, the next 3 are all going to be about writing. So we've talked about how you can teach English. We've talked about how you can speak English for narration. We've talked about how you can listen and transcribe and get paid for that. The rest are going to be about writing in English or writing in your language, whatever it is. So number 5 in particular is there's pretty good money to be made in proofreading and copy editing academic entrance essays. So these are people who are writing personal statements to apply to universities or to apply to schools or whatever it is around the world for their MBA, for a PhD. A lot of people applying to the top universities in the world are not necessarily native English speakers, and therefore they need copywriters, they need proofreaders and copy editors to kind of sharpen up their stuff. This is a bit different from actually writing their personal statement, which is also an industry. That's not really what we're recommending. That's a bit grey. This is just proofreading them and making sure they're up to scratch. But because these are essays, personal statements that are so important for the people submitting them to universities, the pay for these kind of jobs is very high. People will pay a lot of money. They'll easily pay a few $100s to get a 1-page personal statement proofread. They need it to be just like just perfect. So on your side, a proofreader can make the average figure in the US is about $25 to $30 an hour. But the great thing about this is obviously you can do it from home. You're sent the file, you do the proofreading, you send it back. And there's a few that I wanted to highlight. There's Scribendi, there's Top Admit, there is Essay Edge, and in the UK there is Proof My Essay. And again, they're all in the sheet, the Google Sheet, for you to have a look at. There's not really much to say about these. You go to these sites, you sign up as an editor, and they will send you things. You do generally need to pass some kind of admission criteria, but that will all be listed on the website.
Grammar check or something. I would not pass that. I'm terrible at that. But so if you've a natural skill set for looking at a piece of text, and you can sort out the grammar, sort out the formatting, remove repeated words, or whatever these amazing people do, if that is a natural skill set of yours, or you just know you've got it, but you've never really monetized it, then this is a nice place. Number 5, entrance essays and proofreading is a really good place to start to see if you can generate revenue, because it, like Carl said, it is higher. And if you look at, we're in a weird time when it comes to entrance for things, but this could also be for careers. So it's not just university. It's look, I need this is for my job application. This is for my CV, and actually it's high level employment or it's very competitive employment, and somebody wants the edge. They're willing to pay that $100-$200 to get the edge there. So yeah, that's I think it's a nice one. So right, number 6 is actually an interesting one. So when I saw this in the notes, I chatted to my wife Gina, who's done one of these qualifications in the past, and I said, "Please tell me you still have your notes because we may be able to make some cash off this." So number 6 is
Gina would be perfect for this. I bet Gina has beautiful notes in
she
multiple
had very
colors,
good notes,
stickers and stuff like that. So what we're talking about now is selling academic notes, which is a really interesting industry, which I didn't really know about until this weekend. So if you've got GCSE, A-level, university notes, or maybe notes from a professional qualification like the CFA in finance or ACCA or
ACCA, which is what Gina's got. So accountancy qualifications, yeah.
If you have pretty notes, you can upload all those notes, not just pretty, sorry, useful notes. You can upload those notes to various marketplaces, and if they get sold by people taking the ACCA or CFA, then you receive money from that. So I know a lot of people who have kind of binders of notes, which they're not going to throw out because they spent years at university creating those notes, but they're just sitting there. They're just sitting there on the shelf.
And if you look at, so let's just dive into this. Why would somebody do that? Because if you look at ACCA as an example, and I know this because I was alongside Gina, not doing it, but I could see the kind of work that goes into it. So you would go to an ACCA exam preparation class, and then they would start to extract things that you really should be focusing on in preparation for exam questions. Now, those notes to somebody are critical because time is an essence with these things as well, especially most time ACCA is done inside people's career because they have to get work experience as well. So you've got a choice. Either you've got a supersized textbook like that one there, that book called Capital, massive textbooks, which you have to then sift through and extract that information, plus pay for, and they're not cheap, these additional classes where a lecturer will then, if in a physical location, give you look, I think the exam questions you need to focus on are this, and this. For a lot of people, you're actually saving time and money by pulling somebody else's notes, especially from, you may buy somebody's notes from 2019, 18, 17, 16, spend $400 on that, but it's still cheaper and more time effective than doing all of that work yourself. So that's why somebody would want to do it. So if you've got notes at home and they are just amazing, then look at these platforms. You could be paid for, and it's almost like a royalty basis. As it goes onto a platform, and if somebody buys your notes, the platform will take a percentage and they'll pay you a percentage. So it's almost like having a book on, Amazon or an online ebook store, and you're making a percentage every time those notes are sold. So it's almost like, why not? Why would you not want to do that? Unless you're super precious about your notes. No, they were mine.
I'm looking at ACCA right now. So somebody someone put up some advanced taxation course notes PDF for the exam from for the last 4 years. So it's they've annotated practice papers for the last 4 exams or whatever it is, and they sell it for $13, and they've sold 4. So there's not many, but that, if you split all your notes up into lots of different sections and you're selling 1 of these, 2 of these, 3 of these, so that is, that's $60, $50 just from 4 practice papers that are annotated and uploaded. So,
and if anybody knows about exams, all you have to do is just nail these practice papers and you can get through the exam. So that's
just an ACCA example that I just looked up, but you can go on to, there's a few, Nexus Notes, NUXUS Notes, Stuvia, and Campus Shift. These are 3 different websites where you can sell your notes on. I'd say just go on there and see if there's any of your previous qualifications or university courses or whatever it is, and see if there's anything that you could upload onto there in order to make a bit of money.
And if you're unsure, have a look at a sample of somebody else's. Have a look at a sample of a low priced one, a mid priced one, and a high priced one. which will give you an idea. Is it even worth putting my notes on? How do my notes compete with what's on there? Will I earn something? That's not to say don't put it on there anyway, but it's nice to give you an understanding of where your notes sit in that. And maybe you're watching this and you're currently in university or you're in GCSE school education and you're thinking, hang on a minute, if I now prepare my notes ready for a platform like this, I can cash in for a couple of years to come. So if you are currently in that education cycle, and that could be at any age, so it could be retaking GCSEs, it could be doing a degree in, it could be later in life, it could be a kind of qualification that you're getting alongside your career. Think about an incentive for getting a quality bunch of notes together is that you're going to sell them down. So use this in a reverse engineered way as well.
Yeah. So in terms of commission, the site will take a commission. It depends, like wildly depending on the site. Nexus Notes will take 50%, so that's quite a lot.
That's a lot.
Stuvia, yeah, it is. Stuvia will take 30%, so you're left with the 70%. And Campus Shift only take 15%, so you're left with 85%. Don't know why it's so wildly different. I hope that Nexus Notes sells more.
I assume they got more traffic.
Yeah, I don't know. But again, if you prepared these notes, I don't see why you wouldn't put it on every single marketplace. So yes, you might be making less from Nexus Notes, but maybe they're selling more. I don't know. You can put them on to every single one and make some money. And the good thing about this is, sure, you might only sell 4 this year and $60 or whatever, but the notes stay on that platform. And you can just continuously make money from that. 10 years from now, you might receive a check or a PayPal, which is like, oh, here you go, here's $20 or whatever. So once it's done, you just set and forget it, and you're going to be making a small amount of cash over time.
Fantastic. So now we're on to the final one, number 7, which is freelance writing. Now, this does require a level of skill set. I've got a couple of friends who are freelance writers, or as they were going through university, they leveraged their skills and got paid for freelance writing. They were very good writers. And essentially this is writing based on a demand or based on a certain requirement that is set out by a business, an industry, an individual business owner. But particularly businesses are in, I don't use the phrase, but desperate need for good writers, especially ones that can have the permission to write on multiple platforms, because if you're in a career, you may only be able to write for that one organization, whereas some freelance writers can write freely across all platforms, and that's the way they decide to make their money rather than one source of income. Pros and cons for both. So anything you want to add to that description?
Not really. I mean, this is just using your writing ability, and there's so many different ways that you can do this. I try to organize and categorize the things we're going to talk about, but it's just, there's lots of different ways. So we recommend you just go and have a look at them and see which ones chime for you.
And it's on that list. Yeah, it's on that list. So anything we've spoken about today, and if you're tuning in and you're thinking, hang on a minute, these guys are just listing off loads of things. But these are things off a giant list that we've created, and that link is in the description. So do check that out. And then if you're tuning in right now, everything suddenly will start to make sense. We're just expanding and bringing into your awareness the different ways you can make money online, leveraging the skill set you have, specifically today around English. So leveraging the ability to read, write, hear, express, understand, be able to teach the language English. That's where we're focusing today. So sorry, Carl, you're going to list a bunch of items.
Yeah, I'll just go through them. So first kind of subcategory there's websites that want lists. We're talking about lists a lot. They want blog articles which are like, these are the top 10 lawnmowers, or the top 5 fake flowers you should use to beautify your wedding. I don't know, whatever. Like
top 10 movies to watch in lockdown. Like they want this stuff. Yep.
The best 30 horror films on Netflix right now. This is content that does really well online, and there are websites that have now set up specifically to find writers who create this content. So there's Listverse, like Universe, but Listverse. They pay $100 per article, and they have a very set format. It's like, this is what it has to look like.
That's good.
And it's $100 if they accept it. Then there's another one called A List Apart. Now they pay $200 for a featured article, $100 for a normal list article, and $50 for a mini article. So it's a bit more flexible than list first. So those two are worth looking at. Not everything that gets submitted gets accepted, obviously, but if you kind of crack the code and you work out how to create the articles that they want, $100 for a list is, you know, if you crack that code, you can do a few a day. You're good. Next one I want to look at is international living. Now this is a very specific one. They just have a very open writers program, so they take a lot of submissions, but they want articles about living around the world, in particular to do with health, and in particular for I think this is right, for kind of older people. So very specific, but they pay $225 for 900 words and $350 for 1,600 word articles. They're great.
What they're doing here,
pricing.
yeah, and what they're doing here is they're appreciating and they're paying accordingly for your skill set, which is writing. So if you have that skill set, which is being able to write an article, compile a list with all the way you should write according to what they would like as the output, then that's some chunky profit to be made. Definitely.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. Another one I wanted to highlight is called Funds for Writers. Funds for Writers, they are mainly competition based. The minimum competition payout is $200, but what they'll do is they'll get companies, let's say I'm looking at HSBC right now, I'm in Canary Wharf, so let's say HSBC want an article about foreign exchange rates. Foreign exchange rates. So HSBC says we want an article about foreign exchange rates. These are the criteria. Funds writers will post this competition, and you write your article and send it in. If your article wins, you win the prize. If it doesn't, you don't make any money. So obviously there's a risk there. But
so I imagine the payout's a bit higher.
They are. Minimum is 200. But I saw some. There was one that was basically a fellowship, and you'd be paid $10,000, and you'd have to keep writing for them. But so there's a really varied range of things there, and they tend to be bigger projects. Like it won't just be HSBC saying we want a 500 word article on foreign exchange. It's okay, we're going to be writing a book on
a research yeah,
that kind of thing. So but they tend to start with smaller pieces you write in of 1,000 words. You win that competition, and then there's bigger gigs from that. But you just have to go on look on the website, and it will tell you how much the prize money is, and what the requirements are, and you can decide whether that's of interest. I want to highlight that because it's a very interesting one. Different.
That's cool. And also, if you find something which is you already know about the subject, so have a look at all of these competitions and say, oh god, that's my area of expertise. If I did a pub quiz on that, I would absolutely smash that out of the park. Then you are, there's no reason not to
just something about it already.
It could be already on your blog, and you say, oh, here we go, just copy and paste off your blog. Does this work for you guys? I'll take that £10,000, thank you, or $10,000 or whatever, as an example. Imagine it was that easy. Okay, so we also have something called Text Broker. What did you find in your research here?
So Text Broker is one of the biggest ones out there. They connect you directly with companies, basically, and then it's earning per word depending on your quality level. So the interesting thing about Text Brokers is that you, as an author on their site, you are rated from 1 to 5 stars by the editors on Text Broker. It's quite scary. Like
editors and their egos. Yeah.
So they review the work, and you are rated, I guess, depending on consistency of content and how happy the clients are, etc., etc. But you can go from 1 star. There is no star, so 2 star to 5 star, and depending on your rank, you get paid different amounts. So if you've got 2 stars, it's 70 euro cents per word. No, sorry, points. Sorry, that would be
0.7. That'd be a lot.
0.7. 0.7 cents euro per
Yeah.
word. If you're at 3 stars, it's 0.95 cents, so almost 1 cent per word. Going all the way up to, if you're 5-star, it is 4 cents, euro cents per word, which at that point, that can add up quite quickly.
Very quickly, yeah. And I think it's also then just establishing a brand. They for them it's great because it's similar to the incentive we discussed in one of the language learning centers, which is they want you to become one of their go-to writers, so they know they've got this bunch of 5-star reliable writers who are going to consistently come to them and get paid well. So it allows you to up rank. Think about bandings in salary. So you go through a banding in a salary. They're using a similar kind of incentive program. Have a look at, when you Google and research this, find out how do I become a 5-star writer on Textbroker. There would be a lot of people sharing that knowledge and wisdom out there as well. And then you can work towards that in a shorter period of time, because now you know how to play their game as such, play their game, get to your 5 stars and make 4 cents, euro cents per word. So again, what we're saying is explore deeply, actually do your own due diligence on every kind of platform that we're talking about, and don't just take Hans and Carl's word for it. It says Textbroker will pay you 4 stars, 4 cents if you get 5 stars, and all of a sudden, you come back to me and Carl and say, I haven't budged from 2 stars. So think about exploring all of these places as well, but the ones that appeal to you. That's really the thing. It's a pick and mix today and all of this week. What appeals to you? What do you have a natural talent and skill set in? And then just pick those items and just develop that income off of that point. And then finally, we've got finally, and then we've got a couple of little.
I'm going to jump to Fiverr last. So okay. I just want to talk about two additional freelance writing gigs that you can do. Which are, again, they don't really fit in anywhere, but they're worth mentioning. The first is Medium's partner program. So Medium is I guess it's like a publishing.
It's a super blog website, but you publish onto their website, yeah.
Yeah. So you can write a blog onto their platform, but because they're running adverts on their platform, you can actually get paid for producing content on Medium. What they do now is you get paid for how long people spend on your blog articles. So think of this, instead of you having your personal blog on your own personal page, instead you're writing a blog, but it sits on Medium.
Yeah.
And because Medium are making advertising revenue from that, they reward you for it. So it's a bit easier than starting your own blog because they give you the platform.
Yeah, it's a beautiful site as well. It's a very nice, visually is a lovely site. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to get the average of how much people make, but I got the March 2020 figures. The highest amount earned for a single blog article, a single story, was $5,100. I imagine they got a lot of views to make that amount of money. The highest amount earned by a single author last month was $17,126. So that's one author in March 2020 made $17,000. So we know some people on the platform are doing well, like extremely well. He or she probably wrote that $5,000 article as well. I don't know, but
yeah.
But then the more interesting thing is this. So the percentage of active writers who are earning over $100 is 6.9%, which means 93% of people who are writing on the platform are not earning $100. They're earning less than $100. So that means a vast majority are probably not making anything, or they're making relatively small amounts of cash. The fact that 7% are earning over $100 is quite good, though. I mean, if you really dedicate yourself to it, hopefully you can be in that 7%. And if you then break through, you can make a lot of money, apparently. But it's something that's worth looking at if you do like to write, if you want to run a blog. We will definitely be talking about running your own blog in later weeks, but the Medium Partner Program is worth looking at for now if you want something a bit faster.
Okay, I'll start adding to my blog in preparation for that. So I like that. So that's Medium Partners Program. It's, and if you're thinking, I've always wanted to start a blog, but I don't want to go through the headache of having a domain, a website, and all of that stuff that goes into it, then is which is fair, but I still want to make potentially some cash from my blog. Well, Medium is a way to do that. Allow them to do the functionality part of things, and you just focus on what you're passionate about, which is the actual writing. So in that case, it's great. And I would say 7%, 6.9% is a high number to make a bit of cash. And if you do this alongside some of the other items above in terms of writing, then you can start to stack, again, like we spoke about yesterday, you can start to stack this income over time. So that was one. And I see you've got another mention you wanted to mention as well.
Super fast one. There's a website called Squad Help, where they run micro competitions where businesses want to get a name for their business, a name for a project, a name for a product or a service or whatever it is. The business will go on to Squad Help, give descriptions of, okay, this is what my product does, these are the features, these are the benefits, I need a name. And freelance writers, or the people who are users of Squad Help, will type out names they think would be good for this product, and all those names are entered into a competition. The winning name will win between apparently $100 and $300 for winning. Again, it's a competition. If you do not win, you do not make anything. But this is kind of, if you are creative, if you're good at naming things, if you're good at branding, this is a decent one to sign up for, because basically you get sent an email with the current jobs, like these are the new jobs today. If you're able to quickly look at a description and be like, okay, we should call it this, and slam out a name very quickly, and you win, great, that's a nice bit of extra income. I think this is a nice one to have it as a bonus if you are good at branding. I wouldn't rely on this to consistently make money.
Yeah, because it's a competition, but also it's a nice lockdown family game as well, if you think about it from that perspective. Yeah. Right, guys, I need some ideas today, but this is the game, and it's all about idea generation, and then you submit it, and maybe if you do win, you share the cash amongst people, or treat yourself during lockdown.
Get them to work.
Get them doing the work, buy a takeaway or whatever it is you want to do. So just some ideas. So Carl, you wanted to finish on Fiverr and Upwork.
Again, we're going to be talking about them tomorrow and the day after, but I think it's really important to, we've mentioned them already, but it's important to introduce them, because a lot of people don't know about these websites still. You and I kind of take it for granted, because we do use them quite a lot. Fiverr and Upwork are gig marketplaces. So they're places where if you can either go and buy services, microservices from people, or in context of what we're talking about today, you can sell your services. And the range of services on there is absolutely massive. I have a list here in the notes, which is the freelance writing services you can offer to people on Fiverr. So I'm just going to pick a few: articles and blog posts, translation, online language lessons. They've added that. Proofreading and editing, brand voice and tone. So that's naming, for example. Resume writing, cover letters, LinkedIn profiles, podcast writing, white papers, case studies, sales copy, press releases, social media copy. And then that's just one half of the list. It keeps going on and on and
keeps going. There's everything from legal, email, technical, beta, website, product descriptions. So
grant writing, that's cool.
Oh, grant writing, that's a good one.
So if you have any of these skills, like grant writing, if you are used to writing grants for art and charity projects, and then suddenly, obviously, things are drying up a bit at the moment, maybe you can pick up that kind of work on someone like Fiverr. Fiverr tends to be, although this is less and less true, Fiverr tends to be a bit cheaper, and the gigs a bit simpler than Upwork. Upwork is more expensive, and it tends to be longer projects, like edit my ebook, rather than write 300 words for a blog article. This is less and less the case, because Fiverr have now introduced Fiverr Premium. Fiverr, what's it called? Plus.
It is a premium service whilst you search that. And what I would also say is customers, as Fiverr used to be very much get a logo for £5, and that's where it almost originated from. That's what the name is. It's Fiverr, get something, $5. Get something for $5, £5, whatever it is, €5, and you will get that, whether it's a logo, article. Now, over time, customers and also the service providers, i.e. could be you on Fiverr providing a service, over time, the ones that provide the best work, the best quality, the best customer service on that platform, the prices have naturally hit a premium. So I'll expand on this tomorrow, but in case you don't join us tomorrow, I think I paid £60 for a logo for the BBO show. Now, when I was looking at the logos, I've in the past paid £5 for a logo, £4 something for a logo, but having used the platform enough and understood what I wanted, I would rather pay a premium and go with an artist who ticks a certain amount of boxes for us, not to be discussed today, but they've made 50 to 60 quid off a logo project, which in their skill set actually has taken them a very short amount of time. So I agree with you, Carl. It's probably, there's no difference. The big difference, there's not much difference in terms of how much you can charge now on each platform, but there is a difference in terms of what kind of work is applicable. But Fiverr.com can't change their name now. It's too prominent and powerful. Yeah.
What they have done is I just looked it up. It's called Fiverr Pro.
Pro.
So if you have been on Fiverr for a while, you have good reviews, you have lots of reviews, then you can kind of move into this Pro category. And I was looking at some earlier today, and the Fiverr Pro blog writers are charging about $150 for a blog article, which gives you an idea of, if you have the reputation on a platform like this, you can command relatively high figures. So that's going to be a lot more than if you're doing freelance writing for one of the platforms we just talked about, than if you're doing Textbroker.
Yeah.
But with Textbroker, it's kind of handed to you on a plate, whereas on Fiverr or Upwork, you need to build up your own profile. You need to market yourself going forward. You own the business, but because you own the business, you own the risk as well. So again, it's up to you whether that's something you want to do, or maybe you do a combination. Maybe you do a bit on Textbroker while you're setting up your Fiverr and your Upwork profiles.
Yeah, the whole classic, just allow your income to do that. And then you can say, okay, I don't need any more Textbroker work now because I've got a consistent amount writing work coming in from Fiverr.com. So just think about that with your income. That's Textbroker, that's Fiverr. As you build your platform, you can just do that. And then no longer do you need Textbroker. If it ever dips, Textbroker's there, you know what needs to be done there. You may still have a 3 or 4 star profile, and then you can jump back on there. But the range of categories is humongous within Fiverr for writing.
I mean, I would just go and have a look at Fiverr and Upwork.com.
And the category is articles and blog posts. So find that in the category section, and that starts to bring up lots of areas. That's the one underlined. So I'm assuming that's
it's writing and translation.
Okay, writing and translation. Look for that category to be focused on what we're talking about today.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about Fiverr a lot more tomorrow when we talk about professional skills, because you can also, let's say you know how to do video editing. You can also sell skills like that on Fiverr and Upwork. So we will be going into more detail on these platforms. And then on Friday, we're going to be talking about creative skills, which again, Fiverr and Upwork are really easy places to start picking up clients. They're not the only places, but they are good places to start.
Yeah, because think about in terms of what you're thinking right now, potentially thinking is, look, I'm in lockdown, I'm in a process of change, and I'm not necessarily business orientated, i.e. sales, marketing, all of these components, the finance, all of these components that are required to be thought of when you are starting a business or a startup. What these platforms do brilliantly, the Fiverrs, the Upwork, and all of the other stuff we mentioned today, is they handle most of the business side for you. So it allows you just to do what you're good at, which is the actual task-based, the process, the work in order to receive the cash. So that's what to think about it. Because if you're watching this thinking, well, actually, I want to start my own online business, great. But if you need cash right now, this is where to start. This is where to start and build your profile.
This is also a really good way to test out whether there's actually demand. If you put together a product offering and you start selling really well on Fiverr, fantastic. Then there's a customer base for what it is you provide. You can go and set up your own website. You can set up your own payment processor, etc., and do it yourself and make more money. But you can start on Fiverr to make sure there's actually a demand for it, and let Fiverr deal with all the things like taking payment, marketing you, sending notification emails, all of that stuff. You can let them do for now, and then you'll do it yourself later.
Absolutely. So, my goodness, right? We've covered 7. Let me just summarize these. I'm going to flick through our notes. So today was very much leveraging the fact that your native or your second language is English. How can we leverage that? So we've spoke about and how to make money of leveraging that online. Number 1 is teaching. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. Number 2 is tutoring. Number 3 is voice work. Number 4 is audio transcription. Number 5 is entrance essays, proofreading, copy edit. Number 6 is sell your notes from previous years, or maybe you're creating notes to sell in the future. And then finally is freelance writing. And within each of those categories is a range of options in terms of how much you're going to get paid, skill set required, verification required, setup required. There's different levels in there. Now, everything we spoke about today is also in the big list. It's a working title. I haven't got it in front of me today. The big list of income generation during lockdown. And it's that side today. It's right there. So it's a 200 item list. It's in categories. So have a look at anything to do with language, audio, writing, to start to pick those items out and go explore them. And if you've got questions on them, on which you want to get started with, mine or Carl's opinion, then chat to us in the Slack channel. That link is also there. Dom has confirmed that the top link doesn't work, but the bottom link does work. So that's my fault. My copying and pasting is terrible. So bottom link does work. Come join us in the Slack channel. That's where to have a chat with us. Finally, subscribe to the BBO show so we don't miss it going forward. Right, that's a lot today. And we've been with you for an hour and a half, which, you know, when me and Carl spoke about this show to start with, it was like, yeah, okay, 20 minutes a day, but there's just too much to share. There really is. So I would say keep joining us. Tomorrow, we're talking about now using your professional skill set and how we can start to generate cash from that online. That's where we're going to be spending some time tomorrow. So if you've got a professional skill set, join us tomorrow. If it's creative, join us tomorrow because you may have a bit of both going on in your life, but certainly join us on Friday. That's what we're going to be focusing on, the creative stuff.
There's going to be crossover.
Overlaps. And
just as a basic way to divide out Thursday and Friday, we're using professional and creative, but I mean, so many jobs nowadays have a bit of both. So obviously there's going to be overlap.
Yeah, absolutely. So anything else you want to add before we sign off? Today would be fantastic. Lots of information and lots of different ways to start to generate cash very quickly online. And you know, all you have to do is go through each category and say, if I did that every single month, and it took me this long to do it, how much cash can I generate? My guesstimate is probably about $500 to $700 from today's, looking at how much people are paying today in regards to the companies and the level they pay. And that's assuming that you're going to do the work, you're going to get involved, you're going to start to explore these items. If you nail it and you do it big on Medium, somebody's earned over $17,000 as a single author. So there's potential. There's lots of potential out there online to earn a lot. Get yourself in that 7%, which Carl mentioned in regards to the Medium Partner Program. That's probably doable, but go explore what's the best way to get within that 7%. That's on you to do. And then come share your learnings with us in the Slack channel as well. So anything else you want to add, Carl, before I sign us off?
No, I think we've bombarded people with enough information today.
Loads of stuff, but hopefully you find it useful and it's helping. So that's myself and Carl signing off for today from the BBO show. We shall see you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.